Hello. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing fantastic today. But today we start a new series. We read books from Genshin Impact, the world, with lore and just fun stories. I hope you enjoy. This is the first episode of this series. A Legend of Sword is the book we'll be reading. It's got 5 volumes, so we'll see how far we could get. Volume 1. Even if Emperor Shur's ambitions are realized, how will anybody benefit from it? Secretary of Defense Frangus stared out of the window into space as the galaxies and stars shone gently upon her face, their pale white glow flowing softly and slowly down each strand of her hair. She couldn't help but think back to the first time she looked out at this ocean of stars through this very window. But she no longer remembered the sense of awe she felt back then. Even her homeland, now hundreds of light years away, had long since become faded and distorted in her memories whenever they surfaced in her dreams. Forgive me for speaking out of place, Your Highness, but this war has been dragging on for far too long, battled through countless constellations, wiped out tens of millions of lives in all sorts of devious ways, and made ourselves viceroys and envoys of every obscure constellation we came across, all in an effort to make Emperor Shur's dreams a reality. But what has his grand vision brought us? One misfortune after another, and an ever-growing number of enemies. They're in every corner of the galaxy now. It's just a matter of time before they swallow us up. My brother's vision is for an empire that will rule for all eternity, one where there is no fear, and where people do not lack for anything. The fate of the many will no longer be dictated by the few. No one will enjoy a higher status than anybody else, and even incompetence will no longer be seen as a crime. And so it is inevitable that those who cannot comprehend this grand vision are doomed to be swept aside. This is their fate. Princess Gopatha shook her head and spoke with a gentle yet cold tone. It seemed as if the intergalactic anti-guerrilla war had robbed her of more than just one of her eyes and one of her arms, because when Frangus looked at her, she did not see the joyful young woman she once knew. I trust in her brother's decision. He would not act out of mere self-interest, so please, even though it is you, don't say such things again in the future. Don't speak words that sow doubt. Volume 2. Surely, even an armada consisting entirely of Aceta-class warships would have a tough job making a dent in a defense as watertight as this one. Admiral Geldofried, overconfidence in the greatest technology marvel of the Empire, meant that she was completely unaware that the rebels were, at that very moment, closing in on the fatal weakness of their base. The mighty star fortress, Anusharwan, designed personally by Princess Capita and named by Emperor Shur, was now nothing more than a fragile egg before the rebel fleet, and Mother Hen was away from the nest. Bestinu deftly navigated the Lashes Clipper through the intricate and winding ventilation system, weaving between jets of poisonous gas and elemental clouds shooting out from holes in the walls, while trying to shake the automatic mechanical sentries in his tail. His eyes and ears filled with blood, and the scene before him merged into a continuous blur of color and light as the Clipper shot ahead at a breathtaking speed. Now's my chance, so thought Bestinu to himself as the propulsion system energy core came gradually into the view. It's time, so thought Admiral Geldofried to herself. much earlier, 25 light years away. With the nation under the rule of Suruga Shogunate, cries of anguish filled the streets as the people suffered bitterly. At that time, the Suruga Shogunate was led by the Seitai Shogun Imagawa Ujisane. 4 years prior, after finally beheading Demon King Donjoju, the Tai Shogun's own reign of terror began. It was in the time and place that our free and unrestrained swordsmaster wandered the land. His name was Biju Kyubei, and he was known to the people as Shinguro, the vigilante. Kyubei was not a ronin as such. It is said that he was once the most trusted strategist for his excellency, the Tai Shogun, until one day he was framed by a rival. Given the shogun's paranoid nature, this left him with no choice but to flee the shogunate and escape into the wilderness. Today, Shinguro was standing on a mountainside gazing into the distance. But what was the object of his gaze? Was it the vast expanse of open fields? No. Was it the mountain range in the distance? No. Was it the road stretching out ahead of him? Yes, although that's not the full story. So what was the object of Shinguro's gaze exactly? The farmers who had paid the swordsman in rice for his service cowered in fear, too afraid to ask. It seems that only the silent swordsman himself knew the answer to this question. Volume 4. The fall is here. The season of harvest is almost upon us. The one speaking was Saito Unisa. Ninjas are dangerous individuals, experts in self-preservation and in avoiding danger in times of war and upheaval. They work as mercenaries for the daimyo. They are born in war, and they draw their strength from the powerful masters they work for. Such is the path of the ninja. But it is also the path of the ninja to become displaced and disillusioned at the end of a war, or to meet their ruin as soon as they lose their powerful backing. So when the Imagawa Tai Shogun finally united the country, the ninjas became like hunting dogs that had outlived their purpose. Most were either executed or drafted into the shogun's army, but some got away, disappeared into the wilderness, and turned to a life of banditry. That is precisely Saito Onisan's story. There's no rush. Let's wait for the villagers to finish harvesting the grain for us. The person speaking this time was called Yonemata Tasuke. Bandits are either samurai who are grown weary of the warrior's way, or farmers fighting to stay alive. They too are born in the war. They draw their strength from cunning, and this emboldens them to run amok across the land. But when war ends and peace is restored, the source of their power evaporates. Like mayflies, they disappear as quickly as they came. Yonemata Tasuke was born into an ordinary farming family, only turning to banditry in his 40s. Yet despite his age, he took to it with great aplomb and quickly established himself as a ringleader. The most terrible of all bandits are those who have themselves suffered terribly under an oppressive hand. Then we burn everything, leave no survivors. His was the voice of an age of upheaval. Volume 5. The terrain of Asada village was shaped like crescent moon. Shinguguro had noticed this the first time he set foot into marshland. If he could organize enough villagers to lie in an ambush up on the mountain ridge, shielding themselves with the terrain and attacking downwards from the high ground, defeating the enemy would be easy, especially since the bandits would be weary from their journey. only to continue to suffer under the tyrannical and extortionate taxation practices of the present shogunate. The mentality of individual self-preservation was deeply ingrained. How was he going to convince anybody to volunteer to be the bait and sacrifice themselves for everyone else's benefit? There was one other problem too. In wartime, a samurai army finding themselves in this situation would be certain to use fire to make their ambush more effective. The wind from the mountain would make the fire spread quickly, trapping the enemy in the valley, dealing them a devastating blow. But this was farming community seeking to keep their land and village safe. There was nothing he could say to convince them that setting their houses and grain reserves on fire was anything close to a good idea. This was completely understandable, of course, but the fact that an even worse fate would await them, they failed to take the bandits down. Shinkuro silently sat down and continued to ponder the conundrum. And that was A Legend of Sword. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was relaxing and just helped you fall asleep or just relax or just background noise. But that's gonna be it for this episode. I hope you have a good night. And if you're still awake and not subscribed, don't forget to subscribe.